Thank you very much for inviting me. It's really an honor to be here with you today. So what I'm going to do is I teach at a small liberal arts college. It's actually 3 of them in California. And so I'm going to kind of tell you, as I've listed this, my path to career in teaching and research. So I do both teaching and research. And I realize that this word path might be a little misleading after hearing Monique's talk and some other people. It's more of a meandering that I had in science to get where I am. And so we'll meander through that as well. And what I hoped, and Monique and Wilson have already said, is I'm going to highlight some of the same things so you can see these same topics. And I like the title of this, neural networking. Networking is really important, and it's been important and influential in my life. In getting me basically where I am and the different things that I'm involved in. And by networking, you kind of, I think of this horrible thing where you go to cocktail parties and chit-chat to people, which I find horrible. So it's not that. It's just, you're in this nice program and you meet people that you can interact with, right? And that's what networking is. It's just making friendships and then maintaining those friendships over time. So that's really fun. And then I also like the other thing of being flexible. All right, so here's my outline. It's quite simple. So I'm going to tell you about where I am now, what I do, and then how I got there very briefly. So where I am now, I'm at the Keck Science Department, and it's science that's shared with these 3 undergraduate colleges, Claremont McKenna, Pitzer, and Scripps. And so I'm here. So this is the California, which is on the other side of the country. And this is the LA area, and we're sort of located here. So we're at the base of some mountains, which is nice. And there's actually 5 undergraduate colleges, which are shown here, the different colors, the different colleges. Probably a lot of you have heard of Pomona, so I'm not there. Others may have heard of Harvey Med, I'm not there. I'm at the other 3. Okay, so, and my building is here, so I'm located within all 3 of these. And we share, I just want to look at the time, we share sciences. And so in my department, we have biology, chemistry, and physics in the department, and environmental analysis. And so we're able to do some fun things. So that's where I am. And so what I do is I do a combination of teaching and research. And these images are kind of what I could steal off my computer or the web. So I teach neuroscience classes. I teach a broad range of neuroscience classes. And you can see that one of the things that allowed me to do that is my meandering in science. And so I took a bunch of time, but the advantage of that is you kind of are exposed to a lot of things and then can have a lot of advice to give, I say. The other thing we can do, because we're a shared department, we teach some innovative classes. One I show here, it's an integrated science sequence. So it's taught by a biologist, chemist, and physicist. And these are some of the students in there. A couple of these students are in my lab right now. And these students learn concepts in physics and chemistry and the concept of biology, basically. And so it's a really fun, although difficult, class for these students. And it's their full first year, and they go to class every day for a couple hours. So that's kind of fun. So that's really fun. And then I do research. Here are some of my students. Obviously, we're not doing research here. So here are some of my students. This was a dinner at my house just a few nights ago. And we also have really good students that help me with my research. Okay, and so my research is basically understanding, this is what I've been interested in since I was a graduate student, how the nervous system produces behaviors. And currently, I'm studying a learned behavior, song and songbirds. And just like humans, we have to learn our speech patterns, songbirds have to learn their song from a tutor. And so what's advantageous of this system is we know the parts of the brain. So here's a cross-section of the brain. The beak would be over to the right, the tail feathers to the left. And these areas, although cartoonish, it's real, these areas involved in pattern generation, we know the auditory inputs, and we know the areas involved in producing the motor pattern. And so one of the things I do, and my students do, is understand how auditory information integrates with these motor pattern regions to produce this learned motor behavior. And I'm not going to tell you a lot. We just don't have a lot of, this is no time at all. So, but the other project I have, so I'm just going to leave it at that. The other project I have, which I also give just in a couple slides, is a project that was formed through this sort of networking idea. And that is, I have a project in Ecuador looking at duetting wrens. So these are birds where both the male and the female sing, and they sing this very stereotyped, it's not very stereotyped, sorry, very precise song, which I'll show you in just a minute. But this is lesson 1. I have a couple lessons throughout this. Or I liked the unsolicited advice, that's even better. One is form neural networks. And just, the more you interact with people and make friendships, the more these can be productive. And so the experiments in Ecuador are done with my colleague, Eric Fortune, who's now at the New Jersey Institute of Technology. And I've had some students work with me on these projects, this project. So Ecuador's down here. I live here. You all are up here. So it's kind of on this coast. And these birds live in this area of Ecuador. And so I have to go to Ecuador once or twice a year to study these birds. So here's our research site. The one we mostly go to is called the Yanayacu Biological Research Site. So I usually stay on the front here in the room. And then our current laboratory is here, but I'll show you a picture of our other laboratory. And here's the behavior we study. So here are the two birds. I used to have this labeled, but I got my slides backwards. Anyway, I believe the female's at the top and the male's at the bottom, but I could have that wrong. And, the sonogram for the song is down here. And so as I play the video, actually I'll do it twice. So the first time I do it, close your eyes so you can't see who's singing. And then the second time, open your eyes, and as the birds sing, this will go through, and the female parts are in pink, and the male parts are in blue. Okay, close your eyes. Okay, how many birds are singing? You probably think it sounds like one, but it's actually two in really quick alternation. So I'll play it again. These are amazing birds. So they have this very highly coordinated song. And what we're interested in is how two individuals can act on such a tight coordination. And as it says here, how the nervous system codes these cooperative motor behaviors. And this is not really well studied. And I lost my pointer. One of the reasons why you care about that is, one, it's just an interesting behavior. But secondly, there's a collaborator that's interested in robotics and how you use your math skills and program robotics. And some of these studies will when you're interacting with a person, so here's a person with a robotic arm that can move, and that's great. But what happens when you go to shake someone's hand? How do you program that? And so when you have two individuals cooperating, what does that look like? How do you code this behavior? Because you don't want what I call the dead fish handshake, right? Or you don't want to also crush that person's hand, right? And so you have to have the sensory feedback and know how to code that information. Okay, so I don't have time to go through all the data, but what we're interested in is the behavior, how the animals do that, and we have some tricks to get them to do that. And then also trying to look at the neural activity of that. And I think I took those slides out, but maybe I'll go back to them really quickly. And so what we found is that the neurons in the brain of these animals prefer duet song over either their own song or the song of their partner. So when you're coding these information, you need to have the neural code actually might be different from what you expect from an individual. And so we think that this, as it says, an adaptation of the brain for cooperative song. So there's a specialization in the brain for this cooperative behavior. And we think that this behavior is actually the result of a linked pattern generator. And so I grew up scientifically, studying pattern generating circuits. And so we think that the female has a pattern generating circuit in her brain, and the male has a pattern generating circuit in his brain, and it's the sensory feedback from one to the other one that keeps those coordinated. And that's kind of where the project is now. Okay, I was going to show you, I'm going to go show you my career a little bit, but here's somewhere I took these out, but yeah. I was talking to someone at lunch, so I'm going to show you this. I think this is kind of similar to the labs at NIH as here. So here's our laboratory. We did a lot of the experiments in Ecuador. You note the nice dirt floor. And here's my collaborator with a broom on a dirt floor. I don't know why. And we got to build our own rig to do these experiments. And then here's me actually doing an experiment. Our bird's back here. We have to have this because bugs fly into your experiments when you're out in the middle of nowhere. And collecting data on my computer. So I do actually get to do research in the field, and that's a little bit about what that looks like. And notice there's a blanket here because it gets really cold at night. But anyway, I think that was it. And then here's an example of a neural recording. So show you some field work. Okay. There we go. And then how did I get there? So I'll just briefly, because it's can get kind of boring, but briefly. So I'm the black sheep of the scientist in my family, and I started at a small liberal arts college in Alabama, and I also did a summer research project in South Alabama, which is down here, very hot, very humid. And I was a biology major and took a class and thought, neuroscience grad school, that could be interesting. So I applied to grad school, and it was the meandering, I don't know what I'm going to do, and I ended up in grad school. And I went to just down the road to the University of Alabama at Birmingham. And so here's lesson number 2 and 3. Grad school, just as you heard, you need to learn how to be a good scientist. That's your goal. You might cure cancer, but you're probably not going to, and so learn how to be a good scientist. And as you also heard previously, pick a good advisor. So here's my graduate advisor, Dr. Mike Nussbaum. He's now in charge of the graduate program at University of Pennsylvania. He moved while I was a graduate student. And there I studied the somatogastric nervous system of crustaceans, where you can get these lovely pattern-generating circuits and understand how circuits work, neural circuits. Okay. And then while I was there in graduate school, I took a course at, so this is a bit of an advertisement too, at the Marine Biological Laboratory. So you get to spend the summer in Woods Hole, Massachusetts. And it's located here. And there are a bunch of courses that are here. I took the Neural Systems and Behavior course. There's a bunch of other neural courses here. But this is another great opportunity to form neural networks. Okay, so I'm still friends with several people in the class. I've continued to go back there. And it's a great place to interact with different scientists and learn new things. And so it's fun what you can find on the web when you start looking late at night. So I found this picture of my class. It was from, I'll go ahead and say it's 1991. And there's me. I had the 80s haircut still in my class. These are pictures. This is me much more recently. I went back as an instructor, which is really fun. You get instructions from people. You get to play softball, which is fun because there's a lot of people for international that don't know how to play cricket and not softball. So that's really fun, and that's part of forming these friendships and maintaining these friendships. And I also got an opportunity to continue forming neural networks by doing a GRASS Fellowship. This is funded by the GRASS Foundation. And it's an opportunity for people at the end of their Ph.D., beginning of their postdoc, to do independent research all summer long at the Marine Biological Laboratory. So here's my class then, and there were actually some same people. Here's one of my friends, my network friends, Teresa, that we've continued our friendship, and that's us being instructors in the course later. And this is with Len Kaczmarek, who is I don't know if you guys know the book, the neuron with Kaczmarek and Levitan, but this is Len Kaczmarek, who is an author of that book. So again, opportunities arise when you take advantage of them and form these neural networks. Okay, so after graduate school, I did the Grass Fellowship as a postdoc, and I did a series of postdocs, which I did 3. So here are my mentors. I don't recommend that, and it's unusual, but now I say I can give lots of advice. But I did a series of postdocs, but what this allowed me to do is give this broad overview of science. And so my first postdoc was with Leslie Griffith at Brandeis University studying synaptic plasticity in Drosophila. And then went on to do a couple of postdocs in birdsong. That's where I started birdsong. But within this, I have behavior and looking at individual synapses, which gave me a broad range of information going into my career in teaching. And also choosing good mentors, again, is a good thing. So the lessons I learned here is that a postdoc, expand your horizons and develop your independent research project that you can then take to your own lab. And also, the lesson I learned is science is not done in a vacuum, and that's why you need these neural networks, this networking ability in your friendships within science. Okay, and then finally, have fun and enjoy what you do. So from this, I was able to get a job at this great place, working with all these great students. And so I liked Monique's summary slide, so I just stole what she did. So here are my lessons that I learned along the way. The first and foremost, which I think I highlighted the most, was to form those neural networks, learn how to be a good scientist as a graduate student, and pick a good advisor. I think we heard that a lot. Here, you want to expand your horizons, and again, form neural networks. But most of all, as you heard earlier, have fun and enjoy what you do, and the rest will kind of work itself out. Thank you very much.
Do you have any questions? I'm curious, what is the advantage of the duetting?
So the question is, what is the advantage of the duetting? So that's a great question that we don't really know the answer to. So the duetting is, we think it's actually to form bonds so that they maintain their territory. And we also think, it's a little controversial, we also think that part of it is the selection of the female. So that we think the female sings, and it's up to the male to keep up. And if the male can't keep up, then she'll go on to choose a different male.